G'day, Doggies fans, all things Bulldogs. It's the review, a round 3 victory over our arch rivals, the Parramatta Eels. I am absolutely stoked. Whilst it was tough, it was definitely a game that we had to win, and we won the match, and that's all that matters. G'day, Dave, 3 from 3, and Michael says, "Go the Dogs." Welcome to people who've joined so far. I was going to go on a bit earlier, but had to have dinner and all that, Can't go hungry. But Michael says Para played very well today, so we'll definitely look at it. The aggression from the Eels that they demonstrated over 80 minutes will win them some matches of football, no doubt. I expected nothing different. I made mention numerous times in the preview that you can throw the form book out the window. And the reason I say that is over the past 8 years, when we were playing at bustards at different times, although we're competitive as well in certain games, for some of those years, there were lots, Parramatta were pretty much making finals, 80% of the time over that period, 90% of the time, where we were nowhere near finals, yet there were many games where, although we didn't win, we were very close, and I sort of knew we were going to get that from them today. They had a lot of players from our club that played today, a lot of juniors, sort of getting their first go, but also a hell of a lot of experience and connectivity at certain points. Their attack is a struggle for them, but the way they defended and kept us pinned, a little bit to do with the conditions. I felt that the ground was a bit choppy, it was a bit slow. It sort of reminded me of a nighttime game a little bit, which was interesting. And I just felt we didn't really play much football to get ourselves out, but really backed our defence, and that's the important thing. And whilst it's easy to get caught up, we should have flogged that side and whatever else, to not have Burton and kick our new combinations. And I must say the Eels' tries weren't bad tries either. Again, our right edge was exposed both times for their tries. And I feel, whilst I rate everyone who played on that edge pretty much a 6 or 7 or 8 out of 10, I do feel that there is the pushing from the inside. Maybe there's not enough middle support on that edge for some reason. Preston's been a bit slower getting across, and Toby, they sort of had to get on their bike, and Wilson's got close to rounding people in, but it's been probably 5 or 6 tries now of the similar type of in a similar way down our right edge in the first 3 matches. They did make a good go down our left once, and Samrani dropped the ball, but then they didn't go there again. Which is a testament to Curran and Hayward, who did a good job. They missed a lot of tackles out there, but in saying that, their line speed was really good, and we finished them off a lot. So the right edge I'm talking about Lomax, who had numerous carries. So look, the game was just a defensive game played in that second half at our end of the field, and we couldn't get out of it. As simple as that. Let's have a look at your comments. Also, last time we went 3-0, we made the grand final. We sure did, Michael. I think that was 2012. G'day, Elaine. Welcome to you. G'day, Jackson. Welcome to you as well. What do I think about the bench rotation? Moran and DSF limited minutes. Same with Kurt Mann. Cheering on the win. Just found it interesting. Look, Kurt Mann plays about 35 minutes every match, and he goes non-stop. So what I look at is what a player does for the time they're on the field. I felt Curtis Moran was probably the best 12 minutes I've seen somebody play, to be honest. With and without the ball, he was everywhere. He made his hit-ups, and he was everywhere in defence, made some important tackles, some good contact, was around the ball. I'm surprised he didn't get more minutes, but I would suggest his NRL fitness has probably dipped a little bit. And the coach just trusts certain players at the moment. It seems there's a lot of trust in those guys like Curran, Salmon, Mann. King played 45 minutes yet again, which was fantastic. I think Curran would have played 80 minutes being on the edge. Tupanua, I think, played about 45 or 40. Harry Hayes played about 40 minutes or close. So they shared it around pretty well. And Daniel Saluka Fafita, he was sort of the way the game was. He wasn't really getting through the ground. I know he scored that really good try. He had some good hits and good contact in defence. Made about 5 runs, I'm pretty sure. But it just wasn't set up for him. And as you know, coming out of yardage, when you're pinned on your 10-metre line and you're coming out of there and you don't have Burton to get you that extra 10 or 15 metres, you're just playing that just a repeat grind. And it reminded me a little bit of the games we won in Golden Point versus the Sharks and Warriors last year, to be honest. We just, we weren't winning that ruck speed. That Parramatta actually improved their ruck speed a lot today, and that was a bit of a feature. I felt our contact in a lot of those tackles was good, and we really tried to wrestle, but they were good at generating speed from the play to ball. We were a lot slower today. And I think when you're able to penetrate, you got that connection on your left-hand edge, and you're able to penetrate through Burton as a running and kick out. Both of those take so much pressure off their outside men and the inside middle as well. They enable, because they're such a threat with the ball as runners, they take strip defenders off each other, and that penetration we get down that left edge wasn't there today, and that was really noticeable because that took away. Bronson Cherry did a phenomenal job, as did Montoya. I believe that Montoya, I will say he had 3 handling errors, but they were contested possessions, going for the football or in attack and defence, and he pretty much caught most of the bombs that went his way, that he should have caught, and I felt he did a really good job as well. And again, no missed tackles for the Chilean Fijian Warrior, which is good. Only had to make 4. But my man of the match today was Bronson Cherry. Pete Webber also said that that was his man of the match, and Harry Hayes, a very close second. I really rated what Connor Tracy, Montoya, and Wilson did. Wilson had got smashed where he coughed up 1 ball, but I felt Blake Wilson did a really good job today as well. I believe our wingers have been really consistent and strong for us in the first 3 weeks. And, and the tackle, I must say that the tackle from Jacob Preston really turned the game, because I believe I think it was Penasini, if he gets away there and Preston doesn't get him, we're in trouble. There was another good cover defensive effort in that end of that first half by Josh Curran on Lomax. Just showed his speed. Curran, they had that inside play, which they do for kick out enough, but there was no penetration on that left edge to ask questions. I felt the try that we got was set up by the pass of Bailey Hayward. He did a really good job there. He dug right in, which he does do. And their defense was horrible in that scenario. And look, I saw us defend like that for a few years, where we had outnumbered the opposition attack and slid and just kept sliding till they slid over the line, and it probably just shows you where the two sides are at confidence-wise and in the stages of where they are at the moment with those clubs. But, yeah, it was good to see the shoe on the other foot where we weren't playing as well, but at the same time, we just weren't able to execute as many threats on the field and ask enough questions. And I think if we're going to beat the Sharks next week, we have to be able to get our left edge player asking questions and running lines We need to see more kicking. You know, when Toby Sexton's had to do 909, 1,000 metres of kicking, and most of that from his 20-metre line or 25-metre line, it's just going to put us under a lot of pressure. And that's exactly what happened. We need to be in a situation where we can get some penetrations on both sides of the ruck, get more direct in our play, and it just didn't happen enough. And, it was a struggle that first 20 minutes. I felt we started to see a little bit of that when Kurt Mann and Tupanua and Hayes come on. There was a lot more penetration there. Our play the ball speed increased for that period they come on, because I felt it was slow that first 20 minutes. And, we put on some points and got another couple of tries. And I think it was really set up. So look, King and Saluka Fafita did their job. They really competed hard against the side that hadn't hit like that all season, that was more workmanlike than they'd been all season. And I think that's where Para are going to go. It also helps Para when they get two head injury replacements that I believe were absolutely diabolical. Junior Polo, and he's not the only person to do this, and this isn't the only club to do it, to sit there and, he was tired and ready to come off, so he started faking an injury. Then a try was on, and he's sprinted, caught the ball midair and offloaded in one motion. Not the actions of someone who's concussed, trust me. And next minute he's pulled off for a free interchange. It's bullshit. And the amount of energy that gives that team it helps them a lot. And then Gideon Katonga, now whilst there was a collision, he didn't hit the ground with his head. There wasn't a head clash. The head didn't hit the ground. Nothing touched his head. So why was he given a free interchange? I thought that was absolute rubbish as well, and could have helped them, But again, the Bulldogs are able to defy some ridiculous calls, like the current one where he's called a player offside. Good on him. Well, what do you want him to do? Be Cameron Smith and stick his, do a squirrel grip 3 times a match, or have a little bum feel or bum play, which he used to do often to put people off their game. It wasn't just John Hopewadi, by the way. I felt Critter did a good. I think Critter's not 100% either. He's sort of struggling a bit with his legs, and he's wearing those long things around his legs. He's got a few issues there. I think the bye's going to come at a really good time for Stephen Crichton when we get there. But look, I'm really happy with the grittiness of our victory, and they'll be better for the run. There may be a couple of changes next week. I'd definitely be keeping Curtis Moran in that side. And I would also be looking to get Bailey Hayward doing more kicking. So we've got that variation both sides of the field if we can. Felt the kick that he did do in that second half was great. Marnie he sometimes struggles against his old club. I tell you, I felt he defended like a dog as always. But yeah, he just, and some of his passing off the ground was really good as well, especially for our tries. Just the accuracy on the advantage line. Like, it was funny because the little guy come on who looks like his doppelganger from Parramatta with the headgear was he actually looks to mimic Marnie in everything he bloody does, to be honest. Even runs like him, but his passing wasn't at that level. But if he can get his passing right, he's going to have a future, that guy. But yes, that was a bit of a long answer, Jackson. Sorry about that. But I do believe that the rotations are based on where Serrato trusts the players to get the job done. And to be honest, they handled that Eels attack pretty well. Their biggest threats, once they sort of were tired and the fatigue had kicked into them, they weren't going to go around us again. Their biggest threat was going to be in the air through one of those bombs, and we sort of were a little bit timid in some of those as well, I must say. G'day, Timmy. Welcome, mate. A very stoic win. Great way to put it. And I'm really glad to see that most of the comments are positive, because I do believe that there would have been some negative comments to come out of today's game. What about the penalty against Spirit of the Game on Curran? What a joke. Yeah, 100%, mate. You're 100% right. G'day, Lucas. Welcome. D, how are you, mate? I think you summed this up really well. Important win. Proud of the team. We'll need to improve to beat the Sharks next week. G'day, John Pierre. How are you, mate? Very gritty win. And I'll be sending you some stuff as the winner of the comp in the mail, my friend. It's coming this week. When you get it, you can, I don't know, go on Facebook and post a picture of it or something if you want. It's up to you, mate. Tony the fifth. 3 out of 3, Mick. Let's go, brother. Who do you feel played ordinary? Woof, woof. Look, I felt Toby did the best job he could. Our ruck was slowed to the slowest it's been in a long time. We got some good play the balls in the last 5 minutes, and a good period there through the second half of the first half. But it was really hard for the fact there was no speed generated. Toby was under pressure quite a lot. I felt that his decision to do that little kick when he did, when we had a huge overlap on the left, Blocker got that one right. The game was sort of hectic at that point, and the replays didn't show it. But I think he'd be rethinking his strategy on that one play. I don't think there was a bad player for the Bulldogs at all. I just think that we just struggled to get our systems going in attack where we could use that penetration on the left edge to set things up for the right. When they're only doing there was probably only 2 or 3 sweeping plays to our left edge in that first half. When normally, you'll watch the Penrith side will do that at least, 4 times out of every 5 sets. Whereas we were lucky to do it 2 or 3 times. It just didn't click for a while. But especially that second half, we're just unable to get any sort of movement going. I really wouldn't have minded if they did chance their arm a little bit and tried to run the ball. But I suppose when you don't have the Fox there anymore, and your out wide man isn't as fast, it's harder to do that. But because Para are very compressed. But as I said, the game was just it was just like a trench. It's like they were playing in quicksand, both sides. And I think the conditions made it tough to play expansive football, which is why we sort of just said, all right, well, if we make 20 and kick and they get to the halfway, so what? We'll just keep defending. They're not going to beat us. And that's exactly what they did. And I'm very proud of the Bulldogs, because whilst we know they're a lot better than that, we know that we're missing some guys, and we're going to need to go to other levels. Who's to say we could have been smashed by another side today? We don't know, but I think Para would have beat a couple of teams today at least. That's all I know. And they were desperate for the win, and we knew they were going to be, as it is in a derby. And I felt we showed a lot of desperation as well. I was very happy with the way we were hitting the Eels a lot of the time. Both sides are going to be pretty sore after that match. Sam, is Crows back next week? I think there might be I'll try and chase that up a little bit during the week. But yeah, I think he'll be back after the bye, is what I believe. I think they'll have that week off and get him sort of coming in fresh with the team. Been saying that could mean we've got 3 players coming back after the bye, which could be a little bit clunky. And guess who we play after the bye this time? It's the Rabbits. Normally you want to play a team after the bye, but I just think we might be getting into a groove and then we've got to go back. But hopefully, everyone will be fit and firing and ready to go and won't need the run. But we always know that Matty Burton, he normally needs a week or two to get going with his game, and Kicks is the same with his fitness. So anyway, looking too far ahead. Do you expect any change for the match against the Sharks after watching the Sharks go around yesterday? Also mentioned that Toby had the majority of kicking in today's game. Yeah, so he did 1,000 meters or very close to it, and Bailey Hayward did 70 meters. I think Bailey had 2 kicks, and Toby did the rest. I think Reed kicked once or twice. I'm not sure. Yeah, look, it's going to be tough to, we need a player like Saluka Fafita to start again, I think. I think he'll have to start. They've played Curran on that edge, and I felt he worked his ass off and did well. And Tupanua, he dropped a couple of balls. I felt the Kurt Mann pass to Tupanua was it's like, well, this is the play we're doing, but it just wasn't the right time. I think he should have went out the back. And then Satilli dropped one late under. And Satilli's got that in his game, like where he'll just drop a ball for some reason. I've always said it. I worry about that. But I felt his runs were very important for the most part, Timmy. And as far as changes go, look, I think they'll run around with the same side again next week. I really do. Could be a chance that they start Kurt Mann and bring on Salmon later, but I think it works a bit better with Salmon starting. And then you have Kurt play that middle part of the game at breakneck speed, at full pelt, and really helps us set up the game that we need him to help us set up. And he's literally rat shit when he comes off. Like he leaves it all out in the field. Potential that they could. I don't think they'll change the back line at all. Potential that they could swap Satilli and Curran around, but you'd think they'd want to keep that combination going and get it right so that, if we don't beat the Sharks, we at least put in a good performance and then go up against Newcastle. Then we have a bye and play the Rabbits before we go on the road for 3 weeks, which will be the Broncos Magic Round. So we play the Broncos at Suncorp. Then the next week on the Sunday at Suncorp, we play the Titans for Magic Round in what's considered their home game. I'll be going to both those matches. Can't wait. And then we go to the Raiders in Canberra after that. So that's going to be a tough little period for the boys, I must say. A tough little period that we've got to overcome and try and get, so look, for me, if we can get to round 7 only losing to the Sharks and then win one of those 3 matches against the Broncos, Titans and Raiders, we're in a good position for the rest of the year, I do believe. But getting way ahead of ourselves there. Take it one game at a time, all that sort of stuff. Michael hopes that we really beat the Sharks. So do I, my friend. What if Fafita only plays 17 minutes? G'day, Joe. Because the style of the match, if we're not getting on the front foot, so he was obviously spent defensively. That's why he was replaced. Not getting back in the line, not maintaining the ruck. Parra winning the ruck at that point. So that's when they decided to make changes, so they brought Harry Hayes on first. Energy straight away. Harry Hayes is one of the best players on the field today. And they trusted him to play very long minutes. I think he played 40 minutes, Harry, in the middle in 2 little stints. or a pretty long stint and then a small stint at the end. But you'll find that that they keep the players on that can keep getting back in the line and aren't going to get stranded, and they're not going to bring a big bopper on if you're not getting that field position. If Burton's out there and and we're doing well and we've got him onto the jugular, we can bring a Daniel Saluka for feeder on and get him rolling and get him using to set up our plays and that sort of stuff. But his job there was to hold up the middle for that first 20 minutes, and he did that. But as soon as he starts to run out of juice, it's time to bring on the energy, and that's exactly what they did. And then it's about trust. So who Serrato trusts to make the tackles? Because, we'd scored some points. We had the lead. It's about keeping that lead. And Saluka Fafita coming off your own line, like you'll see how many hit-ups. So let's go to the stats. Let's bloody go there, shall we? We're doing a lot of talking, but I'll show you what I mean. So let's get it going. All right. So let's look at the team stats straight. We had possession by 42 seconds more with the ball. So it was 50-50. Very high completion rate, which was the key to us winning today. But look, if we chanced our arm, maybe we execute and we get upfield and we score some more points. And maybe if we do that a couple of times, we drop one of them and concede. Like, they just decided to keep it simple, keep trying their best to get out of there through the back three and through the centres, and then doing the best for the kick and then just backing themselves to make the tackles. And that's exactly what they did for the majority of that second half. We had 10 more runs than the Eels, but they made 40 more metres. More post-contact meters, but less per hit up, obviously just a little bit there. 4 line breaks to 3, so it was 3 all, but Bailey Hayward made one at the end. We made a couple more tackle breaks, which was good. Average set distance, it was only 31 metres at half time. So we improved that in the second half a little bit, and we reduced theirs a little bit in the second half, although it seemed that we're making less metres in that second half. Isn't that funny? Play the ball speed. So they had 3.6. They were 3.4 in the first half, and we were 3.8. So it was we fought it. We fought really hard, and they just kept us pinned. It was a real battle, and yeah, I'm proud of them. As I said, we didn't offload the ball much. They had 10. Para likes to offload. I felt we contained that for the most part pretty well. 1,091 kicking meters. So nothing in that. Effective tackles, very similar. We missed 34 overall. I thought we were going to miss a lot more than that. I think it was 20 at halftime or 18. Lots of ineffective tackles. It's just a stat. We're always high in that. 5 errors to 12. We conceded 7 penalties, some of them ridiculous. And they got to have 10 interchanges to our 8. Player stats. I thought Jermaine Hopgood was a really good player. He did really well today. But let's look at the Bulldogs. I'm not really interested in what the Eels do. But you just got to. It was really spread out by the whole side. Reed only 2 runs for 8 meters, and he just didn't have many opportunities to run. To be honest, there just wasn't any speed generated consistently enough from the play the ball, from play 1 to play 2 to play 3 to give him that opportunity to run. And because there was so much work happening in the ruck from both sides, it just took us, our hooker, out of the game from that point of view. Not that he runs a lot anyway. He's never been a large running sort of threat. Josh Curran playing on an edge. Obviously, not going to have as many hit-ups. Tupanur through the middle. Did quite well. Max King, 14 hit-ups for 112 metres, was really solid. And Harry Hayes, the same for 125 metres. Saluka Fafita, 46 metres and only 6 runs. Curtis Moran, 4 runs for 32, was really good, really solid for the amount of time he played. Bailey ran the ball a little bit more in the second half. But Bronson Cherry, 22 hit-ups for 181 metres. And Connor Tracy. And yet again, Critter, 10 runs, 86 metres. But Critter's generally also the one who's pinning the player, getting the repeat set. The one who's down there putting the pressure on the kick chase when it goes down the right edge, especially. The one chasing the bombs. He's putting in all these sprints that don't really accumulate statistics. And that's where he comes into it. Like, it's horses for courses, and the statistics we look at don't always cover that. People get too obsessed by looking at, and I know I'm going through it now, but the point I was trying to make is that it was just our back three and our centre pairings really worked their ass off to try and get us some meters. I felt Marcelo Montoya did a really good job, as I said. Jacob Preston, only 7 runs, 67 meters. Kurt Mann was very busy for his 30-something minutes. So yeah, it was a well shared around team effort, and I was very proud of what they did. From a tackling point of view, Critters made 16 tackles, so they did pepper that right edge a lot. No missed, which was fantastic. Blake missed a couple. Cherry missed a couple. Bailey Haywood. Now, he missed 5 tackles in the first half, 2 in the second. But as I said, there was no really poor misses. There was 1 or 2 in that first half. No, in the second half, I should say. Toby Sexton, they didn't run at him as much as they ran at Bailey. That's what I said, though. They targeted our side as far as running at our guys, but they didn't really ask too many questions. So what you had is Zach Lomax running down that right edge out of yardage and stuff. There was a lot of defense for our guys just in the normal sort of grind of the game. But as far as running shape at our left edge, they only did it once. They nearly scored. Samrani was just off the pace and dropped it. But they showed they could get around it, and they didn't really do it much after that. So I think that was an opportunity missed for them. But as far as working, running big boppers at Bailey, Haywood, and Curran out there, they definitely did that. But look, I wasn't defensively. I think we had a couple. The right edge was exposed again, which I was a bit worried about. But you got to be happy with the way they just kept turning up. And here's the minutes played. So Satilli played 40. King played actually close 48. You had Salmon played 46. Kurt one stint of 34, 33. Harry Hayes played 41. And then you got Kurt and Daniel Saluka Fafita played 28 between them. Pardon me. I need to breathe. But yeah, there you go. Oh, I should have made that bloody bigger, shouldn't I? So you could see it. Chatting with animals. Welcome. What sort of ice cream did they have after dinner? Who the hell is that? Congratulations on the win. Oh, it's Jason. G'day, buddy. Chatting with animals. You got me again with the family pick. No ice cream yet, mate, but I'm definitely craving some. Thanks, Mick, bro. I'll do that. No worries, John. Only team with 3 wins. Well, hopefully we'll be the only team with 4 wins next week. That'd be bloody brilliant, wouldn't it? Our boy Kraz isn't quite ready yet, Sam. Soon, though, from what I've been told. Well, there you go. Elaine's been on the hunt for Kraz. So, yeah, there was some mail he was going to be ready for last week, and then I was told that he's definitely not ready. And it's going to be a little bit yet. And Gus has talked about it in the media as well, and he's basically tried to take the pressure off the situation. Oh, he'll be right long term. They just want to make sure he's right when he starts, So Sharkies will be hard to beat next week. Even last year against them, we need a Burton's kicking game to beat them. Well, that was the thing. They were pinning us, and Burton was able to put it 10 metres from their own line, at least give us an opportunity. And look, and when you can't get out of your own end, it just meant that the para forwards were able to keep energy to keep defending because they just didn't have to get back like we did. So our boys were covering a lot more meters today. Even though they're not covering the meters with the footy, they were covering a lot more meters without the footy, which was making it harder and harder and harder. So, look, I just think if they can share that energy around a little bit by having more diversity in the kicking game, really working on that penetration on the left-hand side and getting some, just cutting through and bending that line a little bit on both edges a little bit more like we normally do. And that just helps move the opposition around, get us into the field position we need to get in. And then Toby can, put bombs up rather than having to kick long and pinpoint those bombs so that we're meeting their winger or their fullback as they get in the ball, knocking them down there and forcing their forwards to have to double back and run further. So the more that you restrict those kick return meters, the more that the players have to run to get back on side. And it just takes the forwards out of the game. That's how it's done. And Para did that to us today. They did that to us. And for us to just keep turning up, not make the errors, partly only made 6 over 80 minutes, which is pretty good. To keep turning up, keep defending our line when we're doing all the work without the ball and our forwards being sort of taken out of the game to make tackles, it was a really good performance from that point of view as far as the resilience. But we need to find a way to make sure that we don't zap our forwards of energy and get to utilise those big bodies to getting the post contact and to making the meters and to be running through that middle third, which we've been doing in the first 2 games, which is why we had so many good statistics for players like Max King and the like, because of where they were getting the footy and the field position we were able to dominate. And it was actually reversed on us this week, and we handled it really well, like a good side. So rather than just looking, the Sharks are going to run through, look, they might put 40 on us. We don't know. We might have a bad game. We might get a player sin bin under pressure. It all happens. I was watching the Raiders today. I don't even know who won that game, but Manly were winning 30-0. But the Raiders had just nearly scored a try to lead after a pretty tight opening 20 minutes from both sides. Was disallowed. Next minute, Manly ask a couple of questions. Horsburgh commits a professional foul, gets sin binned. And next minute, it's 30-0. So games can be turned on their head. And when you've got good sides playing in front of their home crowds, and they'll be up for it. They'll want to smash us, especially without that big Viliami kick out there, especially without Burton there. They'll be looking to really put a scar on the Bulldogs and put a doubt in our confidence. And they've got players who run great lines and ask questions all over the park. They've got a very balanced squad. They should finish top 2 or 3 this side. And but I'm not saying we can't beat them, because we can. We've got a pretty smart coach. And, you know, and sometimes, like today, I think he could have potentially put Moran back out there, or could have potentially done some other stuff. And it might have helped us a bit. Maybe. But I think he likes to test their resolve. He likes to put them under pressure. He wants them to win ugly if they have to. He knows it's a long season. He knows that confidence is built through winning moments and winning important moments. And we did that. And we did it again. And we've done it for the last 3 weeks. No game has been easy, even though we've run up some big scores. We've had to survive some sort of comebacks and stuff like that to get the victories. Nothing's been easy. Never comes easy for us for some reason. Maybe they go and ambush the Sharks. Wouldn't it be good to ambush a side after we won our first 3 matches? You know, I think the Sharks will. I think it's going to be a very willing defensive display from both sides, and it's going to come down to. I think they'll ask questions for a long time. We're going to have to put on points and back it up and keep scoring points to win, I believe. But then again, they played the South Sydney Rabbitohs like 26-0 or something, or 20-0 at half time, and only won by 27. So they had a sort of similar, very dominant against Souths, but I think Para would have beat Souths today. That's what I'm saying. The way that they defended. Very, very, how do I put it? Committed and aggressive. And that's what that game deserves. Gus said on his podcast last week, the Crows and Sam Hughes are still 4 weeks away. Oh, there you go. Didn't listen to that one yet, buddy. Which would indicate would indicate that they're all due back for after the bye for the Rabbits. Timmy says 100% agree. I don't think we need any changes. The Sharks have a few injuries out of yesterday's match. Do you think Curran will be free to play after being placed from report? I can't remember what he was on report for, but we'll see what happens, mate. Not sure. Welcome to Train Lover Studios 967. Welcome to the podcast. Go the Dogs. And our old faithful Mr. It's Me. Evening. Thought our kicking game was strange today. Hayward had 1 kick, which was a beauty. Reed Money didn't kick once, and he's good at it. Why put all pressure on Sexton? Well, Reed did have a kick on the 4th, which, I don't think Para realised he was going to kick, but the Fox got it on the full. That was the only kick he did. It was in the second half. Oh, was it the second half or the first half? God, I'm losing my mind. It was the first half. Yeah, and Bailey only did 2, I think, and it was a good one. So, yeah, or maybe only 1 kick. I can't even bloody remember. I'm losing my mind. But yeah, Sexton did 1,000 metres of kicking, and just the way they played the game. I don't think it's strange. I just think it's like we had the first round, Sexton didn't kick at all. Burton did all the kicks. But it's because where we got to on the field, he just wasn't need to. It just comes down to where we were on the 5th, and yeah, it was just frustrating. We couldn't run any shape or hardly ever. We couldn't sort of ask questions. They just weren't prepared to chance their arm. They just kept grinding and kept doing the tough stuff. I was proud of him for it. And Toby, to his credit, like he made 24 tackles and he made some good tackles as well. Like really put some fellas down, low grass cutting tackles as well, one-on-one stuff. He did a lot of that, Toby. I was impressed with that. and he's kicked 1,000 metres and been the main general out there on both sides of the field, So, he made a couple of wrong options. And maybe he could have, said, well, let's chance our arm here. Let's go for something. But they didn't panic. They just backed themselves. And that's all I'm going to say, Look, I don't like polishing a turd, but what I will say is it wasn't a turd performance from us. We just didn't have enough. We just couldn't execute anything and didn't really try to execute much. I think you'll find against the Sharks we will have some things up our sleeve and do more than just, turn it inside for Curran on that left edge to come back in field and do more than just put it in points of the field. I think they'll play some footy and look to really fight fire with fire against the Sharks. Looking at our form and seeing the Titans beat the Knights by 20, do you think we'll be able to take care of the Knights in round 5, where they measured once last year without Burton? Yeah, well, I felt both games against the Knights were still really tight for long periods, and we got away from them and kept, and they found it really hard to score against us. So I think that'll be a tougher assignment, obviously. I don't take anything into, Raiders beat the Warriors, smashed them, then the Warriors beat the Seagulls. Roosters beat Penrith, and then the Warriors beat the Roosters. I just don't look too much into that. I think if Wests had to play the Parramatta that turned up against the Bulldogs today, and Para score that try, and it's like 6-all, I think Wests don't go on and score. I just don't think they win by that much. But it's a good win by them against the Dolphins, I must say. They're getting some confidence and they got some strike. It's hard to line the teams up. It really is. I still rate Storm and Penrith highly. I think Penrith have done the fact that they beat the Sharks was a big positive for them. The loss to the Roosters was unexpected, but the fact they were still there at the end and then losing Cleary early against the Storm and going try for try with them in Melbourne suggests that they're still a big threat as well. I rate the Broncos, the Storm, the Sharks, and the Panthers as a clear top 4 still, and everybody else can beat everybody else on any given day. Our aggression, though, puts us at the top of the chasing pack at the moment. And I think sides like the Raiders, even though I haven't seen what happened to them, if they made a comeback at all, 40-12, so they won the second half 12-10. It's not a bad effort. People look at score lines. I look at what happens in games. And they put a lot of effort into that Broncos match. And the Broncos were sort of nullified for it and still could have potentially won that match. I rate probably, teams like the Raiders, the Bulldogs, at the sort of, and West, you'd have to say, pretty close to us at the moment as well. But we're on top of the ladder. We're top 2. It's great. We've able to beat 3 sides that everyone said we should beat them, and we've beaten them, and that's easier said than done. I can tell you that much. I love Wilson, but he had made a couple of errors, got caught out of position with Addo-Carr's try. He should have had. Yeah, look, I totally disagree in regards to he was out of position in Josh Addo-Carr's try. If you watch it, we were chasing our tail. And this is what I said at the start of I don't know if you'll hear from the start, buddy, but we've conceded 6 or 7 tries on that edge in 3 games. And it's not the wingers. Wilson's had some parts in it, but when he's left in a position where the players are on the outside of him. We're an up and in defensive team, and who's also, they all teams do both now. They slide and come up and in, but our inside pressure from Preston, who's worked his ass off, and Sexton, and they've had traffic at them non-stop, right? And they do a lot of work with them without the ball, but they've been chasing their tail to push out. So the runners and the passers of the opposition have been on the outside of Preston and Sexton, who haven't got to their assignment properly either. So, which means Critters trying to hold up in the middle. Look, two of the tries were just because we were just caught short and out of position due to the situation, but the rest, it's been a collective edge problem. And I always say this, people try to isolate one player, always, as the problem. When you're conceding on your edges, it's a team performance, unless they miss a one-on-one tackle that they have every right to make, right? If they miss a tackle, that's on them. But when teams go around you and outstrip you for numbers or play the numbers so that you're forced to commit, meaning they get on your outside, and it's just a draw and pass situation, and then you got to chase and turn. Wilson is taught to defend like that. The Fox was doing the same thing on the left edge. And as I said in the first two episodes, and I said in this game, I expected to be more traffic and more shape running at our left edge today than they did. They nearly exploited it, but they didn't. I expected that they would go down our right edge and find some points, but I thought they'd find some down the left. But our right edge has struggled all season. And, that's just been the tale of it. When teams score on your edges and go around you because we play a certain way, that's what happens. With Kickow and Burton out there, a lot of attacks don't want to commit to going out there because the inside work of the middles has been really good, helping Kickow, and then Kickow moving from inside out has just shortened up that edge. It's just made it almost impossible. They just found it so difficult for right edge attacks to go around us. Right? It's just been, they avoid it. And when they've done it, like people like Montoya have just come out and nailed their opponent because it's been easy for them. Right? I don't think he's missed a tackle yet. And that comes down to what the opposition are doing and where they're running their plays. They've been running them at Critter and Wilson, Toby and Presto. And they've got to do some work to make sure that everyone's connected so that doesn't happen. And I felt they recovered really well for the rest of the games. A lot of the tries have been early or in first halves against us as well. But, yeah, I don't blame Wilson for that. A lot of people talk about caught in field. They're defending exactly where they're supposed to be. Their feet are in the position that their feet are supposed to be in. They're meticulous with their detail. They're doing it a certain way. But if someone's late if the people on the inside are late to the party, they've got to turn and chase. And because their line speed's quite good and they move up in a good line, we have that opportunity to chase. But I haven't seen the Fox that committed to score a try the way he did for about 3 years. Like, there was a few times last year where, especially after he got hit early in that first game against Bryce Cartwright in round 1 last year, he was a bit timid diving for line, but that was a great try by the Fox. And to put the blame on Wilson in that, I just don't agree with it. Not to say Wilson couldn't have done something differently or better, but they're a unit. They're working as a team. And, yeah, I just felt Preston and Toby were late to the party on that occasion and on the first try as well. Best game of the year from Sherry, that I do agree with. And I felt he's been pretty solid. He did a lot of work. So he's doing the work. Bronson's doing the work as far as the hit-ups and tackling everything coming his way. The yardage stuff. Critter chips in occasionally, but Critter's doing all the chase. Critter's there for the moments. Critter's there to put fear and doubt in the opposition's brains. And he does a good job of it. Such a team performance. Oh, damn, yeah, I forgot we get the Knights after the bye. Souths after the bye, buddy. Knights before the bye. After their bye, yeah. Well, after losing to, who'd they lose to? The West Tigers. No, they beat the West Tigers. Who'd they lose to? They lost on the weekend to somebody. I've probably got it up here, have I? Who'd the Knights lose to? The Titans got flogged by them. That's right. Maybe there's some doubt in their ranks. And they're missing Leo Thompson for a bit as well. We were short on Inchage in the second half. You reckon Serrato was concerned DSF couldn't put in another 15, 20 minutes? Yeah, I talked about that at length at the start. I reckon you should talk about it. But he just goes with who he can trust. And when we're pinned on our own line, they just want people who can get back and defend. And as I said, when you're starting your sets from your 10-metre line and when you're having to kick from your 25 and your 30 regularly and you're not Matt Burton and the fullback and wingers of the opposition are able to run 15, 20 metres before you meet them, your forward pack are doing so much, running so many more metres without the ball to get into the defensive line or to get back, right? So essentially what was happening for that majority of that second half, well, the Eels forwards weren't having to run nearly half as far as our forwards were running, right? So when they had the ball, they only had to run back half the distance because they were starting their sets from 30, 40 metres out a lot. So they only had to run from the 30-metre line to the 40-metre line on the other side. Where our guys are running from 30 metres to try and meet them at the same place. But then when we're getting the ball, we're having to travel back, a lot further and run a lot further and just defend. That's what our forwards were doing that second half. And all of the hit-ups went with our backs and outside backs. It's good to see us win different ways, shows how resilient we are. Yeah, 100% agree, Lucas. It's you got to win those games. And I don't know how many times we would have won those matches previously, leading up to last year and this year. Especially early in the season last year, we lost a couple of those matches. The game reminded me of the Eels, Bulldogs in the 80s, low score and defensive focus. G'day, Australia. I 100% agree with you, brother. I was actually thinking that myself. Or sister. Joe Millennium, this is a bit left field, but I was at the game and it looked like Dogs fans dominated the crowd. How was it through the TV? Could you hear us? I sure could, mate. You could hear the Bulldog chant loud and clear. I'll be interested to see what the crowd was. It reminded me a bit of the home game at Combank versus the Titans when there was 11,000 Dogs fans there. It sounded like there was 50,000. We went a bit quiet, though, when the contest. But, yeah, Eels fans were cheering as loud as they could. Our guys were cheering loud. Apparently, they actually said in commentary that there may have even been more Dogs fans than Eels fans, which is amazing. Titans. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Hey, mate, what about Preston? He's an absolute mongrel. I seriously don't know if Dogs win these games without him. He's on a mission this year. 100%, mate. Preston, mate, is one of my favourite players. Look, I've thrown out some stuff that I felt that the tries have conceded. He's been equally culpable as anyone else on the right edge for us conceding. But in saying that, the amount of mongrel and dog and the amount of the way he's hitting, throwing himself into the contact, some of his runs, his play the ball speed, everything that he does just seems to be quality. And he's a player who will be playing for New South Wales, hopefully sooner rather than later. You know, look, a lot of Dogs fans are selfish, and I totally get it. But the more players we have playing representative football, the better it is for our club, the better it is for our juniors coming through. It's just a great situation to be in. It just creates a system of winning and winners. And, you know, it's exactly what we want. We want players at that quality. And Jacob Preston is in the top. And you can say this, top, look, when you say top 10, you go, oh, that's not that good. There's 18 sides, there's 36 second rowers, and he's in the top 10. And probably only 6 or 7 of them are eligible for State of Origin. You know what I mean? So he's one of them. But there's probably 4 or 5 people in front of him, like incumbency and who don't deserve to lose their spot. But we get a few teams out of form for some incumbents or a couple of injuries to those players, and he's someone that I'd have no problem bringing in to cover in the Origin level. And I say the same for Max King. Line speed was important. That's why DSF has limited minutes. Good answer, Timmy. Our line speed struggled, but it was still there. We still had our players, you know, aggressive edges, aggressive through the middle, some really hard contact. Eels matched it for a lot of the game, and sometimes outdid us in the ruck. I feel you'd have to say, in my opinion, the Eels won the ruck today. Only just, but if they had to be named a winner, I would give them, you know, in a very close, tight affair. But our defensive structures and defensive confidence that's been built up since last year, since round 1 last year, has taken us a long way. If you watch the game back, you're dead set, mate. About 5 tries, 7 tackles. What a weapon. Yeah, well, I will be watching it a few times. I'll watch it again tonight before I go to bed. He always does, mate. Like, it's just absolutely bread and butter Prestomania, which is why I've got on my wall a little Prestomania canvas that I made for myself. So there you go. Apparently, he'll be back in 4 weeks, according to Gus, which I just heard on here. So it's looking like Carraz, Birdo, Kickout, and Hughes will be ready after the bye. I think Hughes will start in New South Wales Cup now, but we will see. Another month, shit. Or for the Bunnies game. So there we go. So looking forward to next week. I don't expect there to be any changes. But let's have a look at the live ladder. How's it looking on here? Can I make it any bigger? Yeah, I can. All right. The ladder. Storm on top. 86-4, 42 against, 44-point difference. They've got the Dragons next week. Tough start to the year for the Dragons. They won in Golden Point against the bye, apparently. 3 from 3 for us Dogs, 32-point difference. You know, I'd like it to be better, but we'll take it. Seagulls, pounced up to third position with 98 points scored, equal first attack with the Broncos. But Storm, based on the amount of games they've played, are definitely the highest performer in attack on average per game. Sharks and Bulldogs right up there. Defensively, West Tigers, the best side in the comp at the moment, with 34 conceded in 3 matches and scoring 70 points themselves. So, look, it's a pretty congested top of the order at the moment. We're up on 6 points ahead of the pack, which will hold us in good stead. And you got a lot of teams on 4 points going all the way down to the Rabbitohs in 11th position. It's a very stacked competition. At the top, then you got Penrith with 1 win, and after that, it's all. Well, the Roosters had a win as well, but because they got flogged by the Broncos, it's put them right down. But the 4 teams without a win yet, like I don't think I've seen that in the modern era, where 4 teams actually haven't had a win after 3 games. I could be wrong, but yeah. Cowboys, 40 points scored, 104 against. Eels, 104 against, scoring only 32. And Dolphins, who now have to play the Broncos. Roosters have to play the Titans. So Titans have had the bye, which puts them on 4 points. So, yeah, just more congestion about to happen. Knights get the bye this week. So that takes them up to 6, which will make the game against the Bulldogs a very important match for both sides. Wests have got to play the Warriors, I think, at home, which will be good for them. So that's going to be a cracking game. And Seagulls have got to play the Eels. So expect the Storm, the Seagulls, Broncos to all stay at the top of the tree. Bulldogs and Warriors got the work ahead of them to win their matches. Titans, Roosters, flip of the coin. Raiders, Cowboys in North Queensland. Can the Cowboys open their account if they played a lot better against the Broncos the other day? And the Raiders will be kicked in the ass after pretty much undoing all their good work with the way the result ended with the scoreline. And Newcastle have the bye. So Rabbits have to play the Panthers. So we'll hopefully see the Rabbit slide continue. And the Panthers will probably start to climb the ladder from now on. The teams down the bottom, it looks like they've got a lot more pain ahead of them. It could start to break itself apart really quickly where, you've got 11 or 12 teams. I reckon it'll be 11 sides. I think Rabbits will struggle, but who knows with them and Uncle Wayne and Latrell, yet again, the fittest he's ever been for the 12th year in a row, although he does look fitter, I must say. That's so funny. The point is, it's looking like there's 11 or 12 teams that are going to have a congested run over numerous weeks. And there's a bit of a longer tail emerging at the start of this season than I've seen in a long time. Titans were really slow off the mark last year. I think they lost their first 7 games. But obviously West struggled. And then Para, who started all right, their defence fell apart after round 4. So, yeah, it's interesting. You can't count the Roosters out. It'd be silly to count them out. But I don't think they're top 8 this year. But we'll see. Timmy says South lost yesterday and Jared Sutton was the referee, maybe because they weren't playing us. Well, if you haven't watched one of the first videos I did, I think I got 8,000 views or something, which was a lot for me. It's actually titled, Does Jared Sutton Love Souths or does he just hate the Bulldogs? So if you haven't watched that, go watch it because I talk about statistics in games with Jared Sutton as our ref. And no other team has had as many penalties as South Sydney from Jared Sutton, albeit in periods of where they've regularly made finals and stuff. And only the Melbourne Storm had a better winning record under Jared Sutton. Tigers have the best defence. 2000s kind of ladder. Yeah, it's good. 2021 was the last time 3 teams didn't win after 3 rounds. Thank you, Michael. It happens every few years from the looks of it. Dragons, Finns, Cowboys, Eels don't have any wins. Crazy. So there you go. Well, everyone, thanks for joining and thanks for saying hello. Join the channel if you haven't. That'd be good. Subscribe, whatever. I say a lot of stuff. I'm doing as much content as I can. If there's ads on there, you can skip them after a few seconds. I've nearly wanted to buy some of the stuff that's come up there, unbelievably. I'm so weak. But some of it's a bit full on. But there's actually a couple of things I'm like, I need that. But yeah, bloody ads, eh? But that's how these things are paid for. So anyway, guys, I reckon we've covered it off pretty well. Man of the match, Bronson Cherry, closely followed by Harry Hayes. Special mention to Connor Tracy, Blake Wilson, and Marcelo Montoya had to do a hell of a lot of work. Stephen Crichton, some very important moments for us as well. Jacob Preston, defensively a beast. Curran didn't stop. Everyone played their part. Max King was, again, very, very good. Made some really tough carries, I felt, which I haven't really spoke about much. Some tough carries in tough situations. And Satili Tupanua, apart from a couple of mistakes, also had some very important runs. Kurt Mann worked his ass off. I could name the whole side. I thought Marnie's and our halves were nullified a fair bit due to the slow play of the ball. So we had a bit of work to do to win that ruck, and unfortunately didn't win it enough, didn't generate enough penalties and all that sort of stuff. So there you go. You have a great night too, Joe. Thanks for coming on, and thanks to you, Lucas. Much appreciated, my friend. Like, share, subscribe, all that crap that people say. Much appreciated. So I'll let it go now. We've been going for about 53 minutes. It's a Sunday night, and I'm nearly run out of puff. So thanks for joining. I'll be back probably Tuesday evening. Thank you, Michael. And once again, thanks to everyone who's been loyal and come on, shared their knowledge, shared their information, given their different points of view. Even if we don't agree, doesn't matter. Much appreciated, guys. I miss my mates, Mark, who wasn't on tonight. Haven't heard from him all day, so I hope he's all right. But yeah, and thank you, Timmy, especially for joining the channel. Much appreciated, mate. It all helps. Take care, guys, and see you on Tuesday. Go the Dogs.